In 1977 we made a short Super 8 film titled Last Lines, in which we looked at what was happening to the urban environment. This was long before the theories of climate change and the possible impact of life on Earth became a topic of discussion. We looked at the urban-industrial interface and the mess and its effects on the environment and proposed a rather drastic solution. So, here is Last Lines, recovered from the dust and debris of the past. Enjoy.
Sure, by now you're convinced you've seen a dozen films like this, and you're absolutely correct, you have. What usually happens at this stage of the proceedings is that we move into a nice, well-furnished office where a overfed gentleman dressed in a three-piece suit will explain to you why we have to have this mess and how our complete standard of living and its future is dependent upon maintaining things like this. After the captain of industry has said his piece, then we'll have an interview, usually with an ecologist, preferably female, ideally black, who will then explain to us why our environment is being progressively destroyed by greed, and that all it needs is organization, objectives, design and intention, and of course money, and eventually we will be able to live in a perfect environment. The fact is, of course, that they're both lying. What they're not telling you, and in fact of years been avoiding telling you, is that it's too late. The environment is already fucked. This is the thing they don't tell you about. You're looking out here over a sea of cars and people using them. People consuming things. The one thing we've overproduced on is people. And the only way in which we're ever going to be able to control pollution is by reducing the number of people. And that is where the future lies, not with curing pollution or taking any other courses of action. You see, the one thing that is constantly ignored in these discussions is that man is part of a biological system. And like all biological systems, they develop their own self-limiting capability. Because man feels that he controls his environment, he thinks incorrectly that this no longer applies to him. The truth is that it does. And the truth is also that the cure lies in his own hands. Let's hope happen soon, and let's hope the survivors do a better job than we did.
We made Last Lines in 1977 when the world population was 4 billion. Now, just 30 years later, the population is 6 billion, and in another 30 years it will be 9 billion. My math may not be very good, but even if we cut pollution in half, we will stay where we are. Nobody wants to address the real problem of a population growth that is out of control. Hybrid cars, carbon credits, pollution control are all palliatives that make us feel good but have a marginal impact on pollution. Do we really expect the next billions to forgo the pleasures of travel and consumerism? We are now in the hands of two groups with a long history of incompetence: politicians who often lie and scientists who frequently get it wrong. Another characteristic both share in this media age is a complete inability to say, "I don't know." Well, I think we got it right in 1977. The environment's fucked, so we may as well get on and enjoy ourselves. It's 2019, and it's 41 years since we made the Super 8 film, Last Lines. We now travel to every corner of the globe, visiting the empty spaces, pressuring the local inhabitants, and despoiling their habitat. How we love the historical cities, crowding out the local people who increasingly wish the crowds would go elsewhere, but having built their economies on tourism, they are now trapped. Cities are polluted to the point where they're a health risk. Fire and flood, hurricane and storm are now bigger than ever and far more dangerous. The glaciers are retreating at an unprecedented pace and the ice caps are shrinking. There are conferences where plans are made to hold back the rising levels of greenhouse gases and to present the rising temperatures and changes in our climate. But the world population keeps growing, and its demands on our resources are ever increasing. The world is divided, and many of the dispossessed are invading the rich countries with a demand to share in their wealth. I am now in my 9th decade, so I do not expect that I will have to be here to experience the decline in life on Earth. But my children and grandchildren are going to be left with a legacy that demands attention that we have failed to give. But what hope is there, with a world population expected to be round about 10 billion by the year 2050, well within the life expectancy of most of you here? I am not optimistic about our future. We called our little program Last Lines. Well, I think this is the final time that I will play a part in this little adventure. So let's call it Final Lines.